Hello and welcome to the News Desk this week with me, Chris Stafford, alongside Nancy Gillen, who is back in the co-host chair after her absence, and we're going to hear about that in just a moment. But just to remind you, this is Season 4, Episode 15, and we are recording on April the 13th. Well, welcome back, Nancy.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be back. Yeah, I had quite a nice 2 weeks off, but yeah, happy to be back and kind of talking about women's sport, as always.
Tell us about your break then, because it was a bit of a vacation and some sport though too. You were heading to Spain. That was the first thing. Was it Madrid you were heading for?
So I was going to Barcelona.
Barcelona.
So on holiday with my friends, but also the kind of main reason we were going was because of the Barcelona Real Madrid game in the Women's Champions League, which was taking place at the Nou Camp. And yeah, I mean, that was incredible. That was definitely the highlight of the trip. Record crowd for a women's football match. It was something like 91,500 people. The atmosphere was incredible. It was definitely one of the best football matches I've ever been to. And yeah, almost quite emotional as well. Seeing that amount of people at a women's football game is, just incredible. So yeah, that was really, really good. And then, I went to Ireland with my family the week after. So back-to-back holidays, very lucky. And obviously having been in a pandemic for 2 years where you can't really travel, it's just nice to be able to go and see other countries now.
Yeah, it seems like things are getting back to normal, doesn't it? But in terms of your back to normal, you mentioned you got another trip this weekend, which you're going to tell us about. But whilst you were away, Nancy, were you carrying on running?
I did run while I was in Ireland. Yeah, not in Barcelona, but I did in Ireland. Actually, it was quite tricky because I was in Galway, and Galway's like on the sea, the Atlantic, on the Atlantic. So the next stop is America. Yeah. It's called the Wild Atlantic Way, like the bit of coast up from Galway. So I was running along that, but the wind was so strong. So I was hoping to go out and do quite a lengthy run, but the wind, it was like running in slow motion, and like all my muscles were having to use so much energy just to just run, just a little, like a few centimeters. And then I got to a bit where there was no wall between the beach and where I was running, and then loads of sand blew in my face. So at that point I decided to turn around. I still managed like a 5k run, but I was hoping to do more, but it was, it definitely threw up its own challenges. But I'm glad I got out anyway. It was refreshing at least.
Yeah, good for you. There's nothing like running in the sea air, is there too? I mean, it's bracing at best.
Yeah, and it was, I think when I turned around, I got basically blown all the way back home. So that was a benefit.
I think I was complaining to you about the winds that I've been enduring from the northwest from Canada at 15, 20 miles an hour while I've been bike training, Nancy. But I think that's nothing compared to what you endured.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know what the speed of the wind was, to be honest. I maybe should look back and have a look. But yeah, I think it is known for being a very windy kind of route to take, but I didn't really take it seriously. But yeah, it was quite challenging.
Well, good for you. So you're back in the TAC, and you told me you've got another trip this weekend. You're going to head over the Channel to France for what?
Yeah, so I'm heading over to cover the Paris-Roubaix, which is a cycling race. I think it's a very established race in men's cycling, but last year was the first ever women's race. So Zwift, the company that do kind of the virtual electronic cycling stuff, they've invited me out to go there. And yeah, it'd be really cool. I get to go in kind of the race car. So we'll literally be on the route with the riders. And yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to that. which it should be great. And I know as well, you've got your own cycling adventure as well this weekend. So we'll both be on cycling adventures, although you're going to be in the saddle and I'm not.
Yeah, you've got the comfortable seat. But of course, if you listened to this show last week, you will have heard Marcy Cornegay join us to talk about the challenge that we're taking on next week, starting on Tuesday, April the 19th, to complete the 425 miles of the Potomac Heritage Trail to raise money for Ukrainian refugees. But more of that later on in the show, Nancy, because we do have quite a bit of news, as usual. We need to catch up. We haven't been covering as much news whilst you've been gone, although I did have Peggy join me the first week. So we did a big roundup then. Our friend Peggy Shin, who is in one of those rare positions to have said that she covered 2 Olympic Games in the same year, 1 year after the other, rather, I should say, back to back. It doesn't happen very often, does it now? But because of the pandemic, we had Beijing and right behind Tokyo. So poor Peggy, I think if anybody needs a break, she needed one.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, as the conditions, the regulations that the games took place under as well. I think reporting from those games, hopefully that will never take place again. So she's definitely in a very unique situation.
She certainly is. Well, my thanks again, Peggy, for joining us that week, and to Marcy last week, keeping the seat warm for you. But I thought, just to make you feel at home, Nancy, we would start this week to talk about football. And of course, the top story over here is how the USWNT, the American team, beat Uzbekistan convincingly. They beat them back-to-back games, 9-1 and then 9-0 last night. I guess, we expected a convincing win, but it just doesn't make it a game, does it, Nancy, when you have these big margins in these friendlies?
Yeah, it doesn't really seem, I suppose, kind of competitive or like challenging enough. I suppose it's kind of why do they just want to play these friendly matches to, just keep things ticking over? Or is it that you want to kind of improve as a team? And you'd have to think if you're, playing friendlies to improve as a team, you might need, slightly more challenging opponents.
Yeah, and the friendlies seem to be, well, they are just that. They seem to be also an opportunity to bring out the younger players and test new lineups. And I think the starting lineup for this game yesterday against Uzbekistan, where they won 9-0, was the youngest starting lineup since January 2007, with an average age of 24.98 years. And it was the first international appearance by the 21-year-old San Diego Waves defender Naomi Girma, who we have not seen before on the international stage, and at Washington Spirit goalie Aubrey Kingsbury, as we have to know her now. She got married to Matt back in December, but we knew her, of course, as Aubrey Bledsoe. So they were both making their debuts. And then Rose Lavelle, who's been, a stalwart of the team for many, many years now, the midfielder, she captained the side for the first time in her career. I think she's had 71 caps, but that was nice for her to wear the armband for a change.
Yeah, I saw. I think she's quite a popular figure over here as well after her time at Man City. And I think she's a great player. So, really nice to see her captain the team as well. Yeah, and I don't know if you remember in the first game against Uzbekistan, Sophie Smith actually scored a hat-trick. Well, Kat McCurry scored in that game too, but she also scored twice in the game last night. It was really quite, an eventful game, I'd say, both of them, in terms of the goals scored. And there was an own goal, unfortunately. Then Malpew scored. Rose Lavelle scored twice last night. And Trinity Rodman, you remember the rising star, one of the highest paid players now in US soccer, and in, I don't know, probably in the world even, Nancy, with her contract. She made her debut as a goal scorer. She scored her first goal in the 71st minute. And then Madge Pugh, she scored, and so did Ashley Sanchez. So we're seeing all of these young players having a go and building up a new team, Nancy, because we have so much depth over here. But you have to wonder, with so much talent, how the old-timers, I hope they don't mind me calling that, the veterans, how are they going to get back in the squad? Yeah, I mean, I do question whether they were at all, because it does seem like it's kind of like moved on now always. What opportunity are they going to have? It's the World Cup next year, and you want to be starting to build the team that you're going to be playing at the World Cup, and it doesn't look like they're kind of even going to get any opportunity necessarily to play. It also does, I think, raise a question, because it was quite strange. It's kind of after the Olympics, it kind of was just that there was some players haven't really played since then. And I imagine a lot of them will want kind of like testimonial matches as well, if they are to kind of realise that it is the end of the time in the national team. So I'm just quite interested to see how it all plays out, really, because as you say, there's a lot of big players. I think people like Megan Rapinoe and Alex Morgan and people like that, like you do kind of question their place.
Yeah.
And
Tobin
Heath.
Yeah.
You do kind of question their place in the team.
Yeah, because of course she's just getting ready to have a baby, and someone else is having a baby too, and I can see her and I can't name her, so let's move along. But there's 2 pregnancies in the squad. So yeah, whether they come back to the national squad or they just return to club football, it remains to be seen, but I think it's going to be hard to get them back in. I mean, I'd love to think that Morgan and Alex Morgan and Kristen Press and Tobin Heath will be back in that front line before they hang up their boots, but who knows, huh?
Yeah, I think it's hard to know, and I think it all depends on kind of how many playing opportunities just for the team in general come up, because like I said, it's now a year until the World Cup. So, if playing opportunities are quite few and far between, then they might not have, not really be able to make much of a case to prove why they should be in that World Cup team. So, yeah, it's a really interesting one to watch.
Yeah, Lindsay Horan is another one. I think she has a slight injury, but I think she was named on the squad. But yeah, it's a moving chessboard, that's for sure. But we'll keep you updated here. I'm not sure when their next games are, but we'll let you know that too as news unfolds, because I think they've got some spring games, as you say. It'll be World Cup next year before you know it. And I'm sure you're thinking about your ticket to the World Cup, aren't you?
I am. I'm going to be there. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to be there for sure. I can't miss up a chance of a World Cup in Australia and New Zealand.
No, that's too good to offer. Now, before we move away from the international tournaments, I want to hear about the Women's Six Nations, because our friend Ilona Meyer, she went over, courtesy of TikTok, she went over to Milan to cover the Italy-England game that England convincingly won, not last week, the weekend before. Now, what update do you have? Because it looks like the Roses are unbeatable, but they've got to face France, haven't they?
Yeah, I think they're the 2 teams really that are coming through as the strongest. I think quite predictably as well. And yeah, I don't really know if they must have done it on purpose, kind of knowing. But the fact that France and England is on the very last weekend, I think, unless something quite surprising happens in the next round, that's kind of going to be the playoff for the title. Because England have won 3 games, so they've beaten Scotland, Italy, and Wales, and France have beaten Italy, Ireland, and Scotland. So there's, it's just those two are quite dominant. Something that I found quite interesting was Wales have actually done okay this tournament. So I don't remember if you remember, Chris, last year they failed miserably in the Women's Six Nations, and it kind of sparked a big kind of review into women's rugby, because I think people were quite dismayed that such a powerhouse in rugby could have a women's team that were doing so poorly. And then they introduced some full-time contracts and improved the setup for the national team. And yeah, they've beaten Ireland and Scotland in the Six Nations so far. They did lose against England, but everyone's losing against England, so it's not too bad of a result. But yeah, it's quite interesting there to see kind of quite a dramatic improvement even in their fortunes. And yeah, I wonder how much of that is down to kind of this, renewed or improved investment in the women's team.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they're a real powerhouse right now, England. And but if you watch what happened in the men's Six Nations, France really were the strongest team at the end of the day. But it was super competitive.
Yeah, and I mean, you had Italy beat Wales in the men's, and yeah, which was obviously kind of a massively surprising result. I don't know if that, again, I'm not really too sure if that will happen in the women's, but, it is kind of, I think each team is getting more and more competitive now. So it is becoming more interesting. But having said that, I think, England by far are the best women's rugby team in the world. They're unbeaten for 2 years. They've recently beaten New Zealand. And yeah, I can't see them losing this.
All right. Well, bring us an update of that next week, won't you? And that, yeah, I love that competition, Six Nations. I love it that the women have their own. All right, we're going to talk about another major sporting event in England this past weekend, which almost had me in tears. I was only able to listen on BBC Radio 5 Live, and it was delayed live on its video, so I couldn't actually watch the race. But following the commentary, just like I did the men's Six Nations on 5 Live, is pretty thrilling. And I was hoping that the Irish jockey Rachel Blackmore would be able to pull off a double header there with Manila Times by winning the Grand National. But unfortunately, she fell. Did you see that, Nancy?
Yes, I did watch it. I was watching in a pub there was a tiny screen and I couldn't hear. So I wasn't actually aware that she fell until I looked at my phone. But yeah, that was quite disappointing. But I also backed another horse which came second. So
did you? Well done.
Yeah, happier about that. I think it's Any Second Now, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I didn't actually realise that it was the horse that was, going head to head with the eventual winner, because I think I would have been a bit more excited. Yeah, I literally couldn't hear really or see the screen, but yeah, it was a shame about Rachel Blackmore, but she's already achieved so much this year. Yes. It would have been great for her to do so, but it's a very hard sport. So
it is a very hard sport, and it's very hard to have back-to-back wins like that. It's a very rare event. Red Rum did it, I think, in the distant past in the 70s. He was an absolute champion. Arkle did it in the Gold Cup in the halcyon days of National Hunt racing, I'd like to think. But anyway, it was a super, super race. And she did have a good run at it. So she will be there to fight another day. So well done, Rachel. We're still a big fan. All right, we're going to move on now to what, Nancy? Are we going to talk about rugby again?
Yeah, this is interesting. I briefly mentioned New Zealand there. This is an interesting story that's come out about the New Zealand women's rugby team. So New Zealand Rugby commissioned a review into the culture around the women's team back in December, after one of the players posted on Instagram about kind of the mental health struggles that she'd been having because of comments made by the head coach, Glenn Moore. So she alleged that she'd been told that she didn't deserve to be in the team, that the head coach was embarrassed for her, and that she was picked only to play the guitar. So yeah, in December she wrote a really long kind of Instagram post about this, and it was shortly after the tour where they did play England. They played England and France, and twice each, and they lost all 4 matches. So something was obviously a bit amiss there. So yeah, the review into the culture around the team was quite damning. They found that the players, particularly Maori and Pacifica players, of which in total make up 75% of the team, have been subject to cultural insensitivities by a number of members of management. And there had also been instances of favoritism, ghosting, and then there was also a bit about kind of body shaming and how weight was assessed, and then kind of coming back from injuries and pregnancy was described as a bit of a grey area. So quite a few issues within that. So New Zealand Rugby said that they were going to take on board all of the recommendations that the review found, and that they were kind of committed to progressing women's rugby in New Zealand. But interestingly, Glenn Moore, the coach who was accused of making the initial comments, and obviously within the review, there's kind of all these issues, and they kind of put it down to the management, which I presume to include Glenn Moore. But yeah, so he's going to keep his job, so he's not actually going to go. There's not going to be a change at the top. And he didn't necessarily apologize, but he kind of said he talked about the unique challenges of high performance sport. And he said the findings of the Black Ferns Cultural and Environmental Review released today have highlighted a number of those challenges. There are learnings from the review, and he's committed to ensuring those are taken on board. Yeah, it's quite interesting there. But I think there has been a bit of confusion that I've seen kind of on social media and stuff about, it's a very damning report, and it basically says that kind of the culture isn't great. And I mean, I don't know how much you can draw into it, but, they haven't been that great in terms of playing. They're normally like the best team in the world. And yeah, to lose 4 matches is quite, shows that maybe something isn't quite right. But yeah, to not really kind of have the change in personnel to maybe enact a change of culture is a bit confusing. So just going to have to see how that plays out. But yeah, New Zealand are hosting the Rugby World Cup in October and November. So that's kind of another little, twist to the tail. So yeah, a situation to watch there.
Yes, for sure. Now, there's another situation that you've been watching involving male coaches in the UK, in Northern Ireland. It's not something that's reached us over here. So bring us up to date with that.
Yeah, so this has been massive today because this happened last night. So England and Northern Ireland played with the women's football teams, played in a Women's World Cup qualifier. And England won 5-0. I think, that's not that much of a surprise because England are very good and Northern Ireland are a good team, but, they're just kind of not quite at the same level. So it's not really a surprising result there at all. But after the match, Kenny Shields, who is the Northern Ireland boss, he essentially said that women's football, there's normally, after a goal, the players concede another goal very quickly because they're emotional. So he basically said, I'm sure you have noticed if you go through the patterns, when a team concedes a goal, they concede a second one in a very, very short space of time. It happens right through the whole spectrum of the women's game because girls and women are more emotional than men. So they take a goal going in not very well. And as you can imagine, this just people are really, obviously, it's deeply offensive. It's very kind of outdated view. And he's kind of talking about stats. He's like, if you look at the stats and all of this, it didn't really come across as a poor choice of words. It genuinely came across as something that he actually believed in and thought to be true, which is kind of more concerning than if it just, was a poor choice of words. So yeah, there was a lot of backlash about this. He has now apologized. He said sorry for the offence caused. And he said he was an advocate for the women's game and passionate about developing opportunities for women and girls to flourish. But yeah, just I think really, really outdated comments, and it doesn't really make sense anyway. Like there isn't the evidence that women are more emotional than men, or that they concede goals quicker, and then to suggest that there isn't any emotion in men's game, in men's sport, or that men don't feel emotional, show emotion.
Yeah, that's an insult to men too. At the same time,
yeah. Well, and it's just, you watch sport and players get emotional. That is just
sport.
That's sport. Yeah, you see it all the time. Whether it's anger, sadness, happiness, excitement, joy. Like celebrations. Like what's a celebration after a goal? That's emotion. It's just a really, really bizarre thing to say, and it's, I think, quite concerning that this isn't just someone on Twitter who has no influence or whatever. This is the head coach of a international women's football team.
It's patronising too, Nancy. I mean, it's extremely condescending and patronising, and for a man in his position to say so much, not just a trip of the tongue, that he had so many different thoughts on it that he put all together.
Exactly. It's quite, when you watch the clip, it's actually, it's not like one sentence. It's actually kind of a whole answer to a question. It doesn't seem like, they've put the statement out of him apologizing. I don't know, potentially if there's more pressure, he might go, but at this current stage, it doesn't look like he's resigning or anything. But yeah, I really hope there is some consequence to this, because you just can't be in women's sport and have that view. Like, you just can't. It's just so damaging, I think, to kind of, his players and everyone around the team. So yeah, I hope to see him resign in the coming days.
Well, he obviously doesn't have the mindset to be a women's team coach.
Yeah, no, definitely not. He needs some kind of education and, like bias or, gender stereotypes and, eradicating this mindset that he does have, which is wrong. So yeah, hopefully something happens which changes, at least, maybe if he doesn't resign, but has, some like education, some training or something like that. I don't know, but it's just, he can't just be left now, now that everyone knows he's got these views. And I think the point was made as well that he was very comfortable saying this in a press conference in front of, a lot of media. What does he say? Not in front of media, when, behind closed doors, when something that he might think is maybe controversial, because he clearly didn't think that was controversial to say it in front of media. So, yeah.
All right, well, keep us posted there to see in which direction he goes. But we got some really thrilling news from the world of darts. The youngest ever darts world champion has been crowned as a teenager. It just shows how women can play this sport just as well as men. It really, gender does not come into this sport at all, does it?
No, exactly. I mean, we've seen that with Fallon Sherrock, and it is one of those brilliant sports where you do see men and women play against each other, and it's really great. And yeah, I really like this story. So Beau Greaves, she has become the youngest ever darts world champion, male or female, at 18 years old.
And so she is English.
Yeah, she's from the north of England. Yeah, and she broke the record set by a 21-year-old Jill Klassen in 2006. But yeah, what I particularly love about this story is that she actually predicted that she would become a world champion.
Yes.
So I think she started playing darts when she was 10. So I think that kind of caught the attention of people. And the BBC interviewed her when she was 13, so 5 years ago. And she said at the time, I think I could be world darts champion one day. I think anybody's beatable. Any girl can play darts. It's not like girls can't play darts. So yeah, it's just pretty incredible, I think, to see her fulfill that prediction and go on and become a world champion. And yeah, like I mentioned Fallon Sherrock there, and there's also Lisa Ashton, who became the first woman to earn a spot on the PDC tour a couple of years ago. So yeah, it seems like Beau Greaves is joining that lineup, and hopefully we can see kind of more instances of where she's on a televised event beating men like Fallon Sherrock, because yeah, it's just brilliant when that happens.
Yeah, it'd be wonderful to see those three playing together. And the competitiveness there. But again, if you see it, you can be it. And this inspires other young girls, just like Greaves, to say, Beau Greaves. I love her nickname, Bow and Arrows.
Yeah, I really like that as well. It's very clever.
It really, inspires them to believe in themselves and develop that winning culture, that winning attitude, and it makes you so competitive, and of course it gives you confidence too, if you really believe that you can be any of these things that you aspire to be. So good for her, inspiring a lot of young girls. That's a great story. I love that story, Nancy. And that's at givemesportwomen.com, isn't it? Givemesport.com.
Yeah, that can be found at Give Me Sport. Yeah, really great story there. I hope she continues to win. And yeah.
Good for her. Good for her. All right, well, let's talk about boxing now.
So this is another kind of positive story as well. So there's a big women's boxing fight taking place at the end of this month, actually on the 30th of April. So Katie Taylor, who I think she's probably one of the most well-known boxers. I think it's particularly because she went down the amateur route for quite a while and won a gold medal at the Olympic Games. So she's kind of quite well-known because of that. But she's fighting Amanda Serrano, who's another big boxer, and they're fighting at Madison Square Gardens. So it's in New York. So it's the first women's boxing match to be held there, to like headline there. And it looks like they're going to sell it out because extra tickets have gone on sale for the fight. So the capacity is just over 20,000. Suggesting that there would be around 20,000 fans there. And I think it's quite rare, I think, for the arena to be sold out. I mean, it's quite a prestigious and iconic place. So to even have a women's match there is incredible. And then for it to sell out is brilliant as well. I think this fight has kind of been touted as like the biggest women's boxing match ever. Like it's going to change the game. It's going to show that it's, women's boxing is profitable and there's money and interest in it. So I think hopefully it does sell out, and to have, 20,000 people there will just kind of consolidate that even more.
That's extraordinary. As you say, it's a prestigious and iconic venue, and it's quite noteworthy that a women's boxing match should be hosted there, because it's a much sought after venue for all kinds of events. So that's really, really exciting for the sport of boxing. And I saw that there was more than 4,500 fans travelling from Ireland and the UK. And again, that speaks to how, we are seemingly getting back into some kind of normal travelling mode after the pandemic. But what an atmosphere that's going to be with the Irish and the English over there in Madison Square Garden. It makes me wish I could go up there, I must say, but it doesn't look like I'd get a ticket, Nancy.
Yeah, it might. I mean, they put extra tickets on sale yesterday, so you might have a chance. I have no idea how expensive they are. I imagine these things are pretty pricey, but
I thought didn't you say you were going to buy this ticket? If I could get it, you'd buy it for me for Christmas?
I think, my bank account would say no.
All right, well, that's thrilling, and that's on April the 30th, so we'll have news of that in a couple of weeks' time, because we're going to be out next week, and we'll tell you more about that in just a moment. Before that, though, we've got another item of news, a couple more items of news, Nancy, one of which is something to do with sport and entertainment and a women's sport exhibition. Tell us about that. I think you might be going to it, did you say?
Yeah, I'm hoping to go to it. It just looks really interesting. It's at the Saatchi Gallery in London.
Mm-hmm.
Saatchi Gallery in London. And it's a photography exhibition so it's run in partnership with Getty Images. It's called In Focus, Women's Sport Through the Lens. And it explores how women's sport has been captured over the past 50 years. So I think they've basically kind of curated this gallery of the most iconic moments in women's sport. So it says it's got Billie Jean King at a media conference in 1971, Serena Williams and Naomi Osaka at the 2018 US Open, Jess Ennis winning her Olympic gold at London 2012. I think it's kind of picked those moments that have, it says, address cultural conversations about equality, anatomy, motherhood, mental health and activism. So, and it's free to go to. So I'm going to hopefully go when I'm back from France at the weekend, and I'll take some pictures and send them to you and put them on my social media if people want to see. And if people are in London, I'd definitely go down and see, because it looks really cool.
Remind everybody where they can follow you on social media so they can see those photos.
So, my Twitter handle is Nancy_Gillen. And maybe I'll put it on my Instagram as well, which is NancyGillen_sport. So, follow me on there.
Okay, awesome. Some sad news now, Nancy, to round up our news this week. I think it was just a couple of days ago, a really, really tragic story. Eya Guezguez, who's a 17-year-old sailor, she competed for Tunisia in last summer's Olympic Games. She died on Sunday when her boat flipped over while she and her twin sister were training with the national team. They were planning on the long term for the Paris Olympics. They were training for the next up-and-coming events for them. I think that was a national squad, regional and international competition. The dinghy they were sailing just flipped over, and the coach was in a powerboat following them, and he tried to revive her with CPR, but unfortunately she was pronounced dead in hospital. And she was only 17, Nancy, and she sailed with her twin sister.
Yeah, it's a very, very sad story, and to have just a sad story anyway, but just for kind of such a special, obviously a very young and special talent. And yeah, my heart goes out to her twin sister as well, who she competes with, because that is also, incredibly tragic for the sister as well, to kind of witness that and have her, twin and teammate pass away is incredibly sad. And yeah, I think IOC President Thomas Bach, he was among the people to pay tribute to her, and called her an inspiring talent and role model for her athletes generation. And yeah, just incredibly sad.
And her sister Sarah, we of course send our condolences. That was absolutely tragic, and how she gets past this, I hope she will, and I hope she'll get back in a boat and be as competitive as she was before, in the memory of her sister Eya. So yeah, a sad story to end this week's news, Nancy. So let's move on to something a little bit more cheery. As we mentioned earlier, and you will have heard more about it on the show last week, is that I have a big bike ride coming up, not a race, a ride coming up starting next Tuesday, which means that I won't be in the studio to record our weekly news show, Nancy.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see how your progress. I mean, we were talking earlier about how you've been training and stuff, so I'm really excited for you to get started and see how you get on.
So it's 425 miles of the Potomac Heritage Trail. It starts down on the Chesapeake Bay at Point Lookout State Park, and we head northwest 2 days before we get to Washington, D.C., and then we hit the C&O Trail, the C&O Canal Trail, which takes us west to Cumberland Falls, and then once we hit Cumberland Falls, we join the Great Allegheny Passage, which heads north to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So it's around about 425 miles, plus we'll have a lot of cycling off trail to get to lodging and to food. So we will, I'm sure, cycle a lot more than 425 miles. But it's a huge challenge, Nancy. And we talked earlier about having these kind of personal challenges. It's given me a real buzz. We're, now in the last week of training. It's another 2 days of intense training, and then I take a break, 3-day break, before we actually hit the trail. Now, as I said, we talked earlier about that buzz that it gives you when you're preparing for a big event, and it's something that you did training for the London Marathon for the first time. So you get where I'm going here, and I think you're hooked as hooked as I am doing this again for you to do another marathon, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's like, you have so much time preparing, and it becomes just quite a routine in your life. And then, I think the kind of anticipation and excitement for the event itself, and like knowing that you're going to be doing something special, and kind of knowing that at the end of it, it's going to be kind of the satisfaction of it all paying off, is amazing. Yeah. And it's very addictive. It is addictive, and doing the event itself is addictive as well. So yeah, I'm jealous. I know exactly how you'll be feeling, and I'm quite jealous of it.
It's a great feeling, I must say. I'm going to be glad to get warmer weather. It's just started to get really warm here this week, but right up until the weekend, and including the weekend, we had like 15 to 20 mile an hour northwesterly winds. It's icy cold blowing in my face, and 39 degrees, low 40s. Really cold temperatures. And then on Monday, spring decided to arrive, and it got warmer. It was 77 yesterday. It's 81 today. So we're going to have it warm this week. But by the time we get on the trail and start that ride next Tuesday, the temperatures will be down in the 60s. And it looks like it's going to be fairly comfortable. No prolonged rain. If it rains, we will be able to cover up and ride through it. And yeah, good temperatures. So there's a lot of unknowns, Nancy. How long we can ride in a day, how long this will actually take us in total. Will this be a week? Will it be more than a week? Will it be less than a week? Who knows? And how far we have to bike off trail to get to some lodging, or to replenish our supplies and get a meal. How many miles we can bike in a day. It's a lot of unknowns, but I think that's the fun of it, isn't it? It's, all these unknowns. We don't even know where we're going to sleep, much less where we're going to eat.
Yeah, I think that factor of it is, just not knowing how it's going to turn out, or, kind of the challenges you might face or anything like that. I think it is kind of that excitement, really, that you could just, anything could happen in a good way, obviously in a good way.
Don't they say life begins outside your comfort zone?
Yeah, you've got to push yourself 100%. I do think that. And that, it definitely sounds like you are pushing yourself. So it'd be very, very satisfying when you complete it.
Yeah, hugely satisfying. Determined to finish it. And let's just hope, we have fair weather and please no flat tires. I mean, we're prepared for it if we are, but, it'd be nice not to have any flat tires, and, the bikes remain undamaged, because that will, obviously that would hamper us considerably if we had any mechanical failures. So, all right, think about us, Nancy. That will be starting on the 19th, and we'll be gone, I'm sure, a week. So we'll be back the following week, hopefully. If I get delayed, Nancy, then you'll hear about it, and we'll be back in 2 weeks' time with another episode of the News Desk. But for now, that's it, Nancy, unless you've got anything else.
No, that's everything from me. Yeah, it's been fun to be back.
Good. We're nice to have you back. Welcome back again. And I'm glad you had a good break. Enjoy this weekend's cycling in France. How long are you gone for?
Just so I'm leaving on Friday, just spending the day there on Saturday and coming back on Sunday. So a very brief trip, but it's not, it's only an hour and a half on the Eurostar. So it's not too much of a,
good.
Too much of a journey.
Yeah, it's fun on the Eurostar, isn't it?
It is fun. Yeah.
All right. I hope you didn't watch the TV series The Tunnel, did you?
No, I didn't, and I won't now. Sounds like something I should avoid.
No, it didn't affect actually the passengers on the train, and it is a fun experience, the Eurostar. So have fun in Spain, have fun riding in the media car following that race, and tell us all about it when we see you next time here on the News Desk. Nancy, thank you so much for joining me again, as always.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, and don't forget to go to the website if you have a moment, withsports.com, for the show notes and the links to the stories that we covered here, and follow us on social media. Until the next time, thank you for listening. Goodbye for now.